With a toxic gas like carbon monoxide, you could be overcome quite quickly. So if you're working on a boiler in isolation somewhere, you're just doing your job, you can't taste and you can't smell carbon monoxide. You could be overcome by fumes without actually knowing about it. So although 30 years ago I could appreciate these engineers telling me to go away because they could see the flame picture, you don't really know what's going on in it, particularly in a combustion process, should we say, unless you measure the products of combustion. You know, with turnover, €500 million a year.
€500 million.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And what's really nice about it, it's a family business. It's still owned by the same family. Right. But generally, because there was no standard in place, they were very experienced engineers I was selling to. They could look at a flame picture and say, it's fine, it's blue. What do I need a gas analyzer to tell me anything different for?
So we're back with another Trade Legends podcast, and this week we have a fantastic guest, Tom from Testo, and I'm sure I don't really need to give you an intro or a background into such a well-known brand, big business, make some fantastic products. We've got a few of them here in front of us. And I just wanted to get Tom on because I feel like we have lots of different trades come on, lots of different people from different backgrounds, and sometimes very difficult to get brands to come on to talk about their business. I know obviously a lot of brands have competitors that don't want to give away too much or whatever it is, but I'm really interested to hear what Tom's got to say about Testo because, you know, I see your products everywhere. I mean, the distinct branding as well, the colour. You know, it's very difficult not to see it. And I see a lot of the people that I talk to on social media. I'm sure there's many of you listening and watching to this who are using the products as well. So, you know, sit back, have a little listen, and hopefully Tom can sort of enlighten us on all the world of Testo and give us a bit of history, the stuff that's coming, different things that he sees with the industry and what people are asking for from you as a company. So firstly, what we'll start with, Tom, is take us back with yourself. Give us a little background as to, you know, you as a person, what sort of roles you've had, A, with Testo, B, with other companies, and then how you sort of came to be with Testo, because I know you mentioned off camera you've only been with them 18 months.
Yes.
So just take us back and give us a little bit about yourself first before we get into the whole Testo brand.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks for having me, Alex, and we really appreciate this. So I've been in the trade for over 35 years, in the plumbing and heating trade, that is.
Yeah.
In a sales and business development role for most of them, 35 years. So seen a lot of changes in the industry over the years, whether it be legislation, whether it be application.
Good or bad?
I think mostly for the better. I think as an industry, although with Testo now, we're going to talk a little later about the breadth of our portfolio and the different trades that we supply to now. Generally, my background has been in the sort of plumbing and heating background.
Well, one thing I've noticed, and this is from me selling into plumbing and heating stores, was just how much the market's changed in terms of, like, this is going back 15 years, you'd find if I went in, tried to sell them one product, people go, oh, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas now, it always used to be electricians spent more money on their gear, but plumbing and heating seems to have...
Huge. It's huge. I mean, I came from an electrical background a lifetime ago. I joined Edmondson Electrical as a very, very young boy in sales and was selling to electricians and through electrical wholesaling. And then sort of graduated into sort of test and measurement with a company called Robin, which later became Fluke. Yeah. So it was mainly electrical. I came from that background.
Another great company.
Super brand, great brand. I've been very, very lucky to work for 2 or 3 really, really strong brands in the industry.
Yeah.
I've been around a long time, and hopefully some of the people watching the podcast will have known me and come across me with my previous brands as well. But yeah, going back to the legislation, the changes. I think one of the things when the powers that be introduce standards, it's always with a view to better our industry, to make it safety and compliant with working practices and efficiencies for the customer that's using the products as well. So, yeah, a lot of changes. And because I've always worked generally within my career within test equipment, so the testing of these appliances or the compliance of our industry, it affects everything I'm doing sort of generally. You know what I mean? It has a huge effect on us. So generally, I think lots of the standards that have come in over the last sort of 30 years have been for the good of the industry. We've sort of improved our compliance and safety and overall ability to do the work as well, because it's all not just about the compliance, but it's about making the job easier for people.
Yeah.
You know, test equipment, when I first started selling combustion gas analyzers back in the sort of mid-90s. There was no standards, there was no legislation, and electronic combustion gas analyzers back in the 90s were very big case units, big heavy units. And
like old mobile phones.
exactly that type of product. And what the issue I had a lot of the time is, I was a young salesman at the time, is I would sort of approach people and say, this is going to make the job, you're going to be able to see the efficiency of your combustion. You're going to be able to set the boiler up correctly or whatever it may be. And most engineers at that time would look at me and dismiss me and say, I don't need this. I can see the flame picture. So why do I need a combustion gas analyzer?
Because it's so big, they don't want it.
It was expensive and expensive to service and back then and so on and so on. But generally, because there was no standard in place, different types of appliance, of course, they were very experienced engineers I was selling to. They could look at a flame picture and say, it's fine, it's blue. What do I need a gas analyzer to tell me anything different for? So where we've brought standards into the industry, generally they've been reflected because the products have moved, the appliances that we're working on have moved on as well.
Yeah. So would you say compliance shapes your business, but because you sort of move the window each time with each iteration of a product, you're sort of pushing that standard at the same time? Are you both pushing each other?
I think all test equipment manufacturers will sort of not just make the most of the standard, but try and work to a standard and try and, as I say, make it actually more relevant to people. I'm wearing I mentioned this before, I'm wearing a little personal CO alarm. Now, within the sort of the gas industry, everyone knows about carbon monoxide, but
I mean, I'd never seen one of those.
Yeah, they're really, really common now. I mean, I think it's amazing how many people in the gas industry are lone workers, and with a toxic gas like carbon monoxide, you could be overcome quite quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're working on a boiler in isolation somewhere, you're just doing your job, you can't taste and you can't smell carbon monoxide. You could be overcome by fumes without actually knowing about it. So little safety devices like this have sort of tagged themselves along as we've moved our industry into a much, much safer environment over the past 30 years. These little devices and the devices that we sell as our core products have helped that journey as well. Because, to measure is to know. It's not... Although 30 years ago I could appreciate these engineers telling me to go away because they could see the flame picture, you don't really know what's going on in it, particularly in a combustion process, should we say, unless you measure the products of combustion. Unless we see that chemical process evolve into a safe and efficient standard, everything else is guesswork. So to measure is to know. So if you're in test equipment, whether it be electrical, whether it be plumbing or gas or refrigeration or air conditioning, you've got to have compliant test equipment now that actually gives you evidence to say, on that day, at that time, when I tested it, these were my test results. So you've got evidence of, not that you've just done the work, but you've done the work correctly as
standard,
well.
Yeah. Because that's one thing that I feel like when trying to convince people to spend good money on high-end equipment, is it validates your work, because you get some people go, well, why would I spend, I don't know how much one of these is, £400 on one of these when I can spend 250? But people don't realise, it makes your job easier to do.
Yes.
And you can be more targeted, more specific, and give a more comprehensive report, which 9 times out of 10, if you're doing larger jobs or if you're doing industrial work or anything like that, you're going to need to do it to a certain level.
Yes. Evidence is the key, particularly for industries where compliance is needed, the gas industry, for instance. Again, 30 years ago, people would write the test results down. They write the pressure reading down. They write maybe some evidence of what they've done at that time. And then gradually over time, we started to see the introduction of little infrared printers. So you could take a test result with your electrical meter or your gas meter, and you could print out your test results. And I remember back in 2005 thinking, this is just great. This is just the height of technology. and to think back now where we are now, because all of the instruments, particularly, our Testo range, for instance, we have a Testo Smart app, which allows you to interface from the job you're doing on a daily basis into the app for test results, so you can send that to your customer and say that this is the job complete, here's your result, here's your readings. Now what that does, as I say, adds the credibility of what you've done to say, we've done it correctly, and these are our test results, and I'm going to reporting on it.
Yeah.
Evidence is critical now.
Yeah.
You know, we
Paper
work in a very sort of we're not as bad as North America. I've got colleagues in North America. I shouldn't say this, but we're not as litigious as the American market. But you've got to cover yourself, particularly if it's your business. You know, if you're a heating engineer today and you're going out and doing a job, it's your name on that ticket as a gas engineer, for instance. If you've got evidence to say you did the job and you did it correctly, and when you left, these were your test results. If something, heaven forbid, did go wrong,
you've got the proof.
You've got evidence to support what you did on the day.
Yeah.
Anything else can be called into question.
Yeah.
So having instruments connected to something like a smart app gives you that safety buffer, that compliance, that reassurance that not just the customer knows it, but you know it because you can keep records and accurate records for your business.
I mean, I just love, like you say, since 2005, obviously all that stuff's come in now, and it's just so easy to be able to finish something. There's the test results into the app, sent to the customer.
Yeah.
And you've just a process that probably would have taken you another couple of hours from writing stuff down, like handing it to somebody or sending it in the post. Have you got confirmation of this? Waiting for that to come back. It's just instantaneous. Isn't it?
It's very much live data. I mean, you can see, looking at me, my age is not necessarily this app generation that we're in now, but that's the way engineers are operating today. Whether they're my age or whether they're 20 years younger than me, everyone's used to apps for different, whether we've got multiple apps on our mobile devices now. A lot of people run their businesses, whether it's a large business teams that I'm working with or independent traders, their mobile phone is their most important tool because on there they've got their database, they've got their apps, they've got their work records and everything else like that. So having a smart app, as we do at Testo, we're very lucky that, it's not more, we have over 100 products and almost 100 products connect to the same app. It's one app, whether you're working in refrigeration, gas, plumbing, electrical, air conditioning, it's the same app. You just choose your application area. So again, that helps us because, again, we don't want to sell people 3 pieces of equipment and have 3 different apps on their phone. But I say, I don't know an engineer now. I haven't come across an engineer in the last 10 years now that wouldn't say their mobile device is their most important tool. Whether it's, that, yes, I want them to buy shiny combustion gas analyzers or refrigeration equipment. Having a good phone, having a good, piece of intelligent equipment that can receive information, distribute information, record information, that's their most important tool today.
I mean, that's another good thing is I presume if, say, you've got a team of, guys, girls, and they're all going out, you've got electrician, you've got refrigeration engineers, so you've got the whole one-stop shop. Everybody can use the same app and see the same details as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and you can share that information instantly. Again, we work with not just independent traders, but we work with large business teams where you might have 30 or 40 engineers out in the field doing, in different locations. You can store the test results in the app. That information can go back to a central location. Somebody else can then do administration for that work that the engineer's done. So again, live data, connectivity from the job to a central office is important for people these days. What we don't want to do is you don't want engineers finishing a job, doing their fancy printout that they were getting in 2005 and then driving back to a central location to say, please invoice this now. You can go ahead and do the job. So, live data is critical for most big businesses now and for independent traders because, the sooner you've done the job, the sooner you want paying, really.
Because, I mean, I love all the sort of software side of how the trade has gone because, I mean, we have Tradify as a sponsor and, there's other brands that do something similar, but how all of that can sort of interlink with now the tools that you're using and sending an invoice and even we've got another new sponsor called Pocket Receptionist where they're answering calls for you.
Super,
AI sort of automated, but then all that gets uploaded into your CRM system.
Yes.
So if you need to do callbacks or you want to know what the customer who was inquiring about something when you were up a ladder was talking about, you can just ring them back and say, I hear you want to be quoted for this. And it's just, to see how the industry's changed and you can automate a lot of the stuff that you spend so much time on. It's just phenomenal. I find it mind-blowing. Really.
And I think apps make it so easy, as I say, that because we're so used to in other parts of our life, whether we're, ordering products off Amazon or clicking on the Sky iPlayer and things. People are just used to using that on the device. And as I say, having a very, very clear, updated app, which Testo have, the Testo Smart app, is just I'm not just saying this because obviously I work for Testo, but it's just a very, very simple tool. It's very, very visual, and it's working. So your application areas are there in a picture. So, even if you're not tech savvy, if you're not someone that reads very well off a phone, you've got application data there at your fingertips, and you can just click into it, move on with the job. So a very, very sort of user-friendly app, I think we've got at the moment.
Well, that's probably why the products are, so popular with.
They are.
With
They're incredibly popular. I mean, I've been with Testo for 18 months, but as a brand, I've been aware of them all the time. I've been in the industry. They're a incredibly well-respected, credible global business. I work for Testo UK, and Testo UK have been around for just over 40 years here in the UK. 1983 was our sort of.
When was the brand originally?
So 83 in the UK, but the original brand, we're a German company, so we're based in the Black Forest, a beautiful area called Testo in the Black Forest.
I've been to a few castles in the Black Forest. When your parents drag you around somewhere when you're younger.
It's an incredible location. We're very, very lucky. The head office is an incredible location. But originally in Lenskirk and then on to Testo in 1957.
Right, okay.
So almost 70 years as a business now. A global brand in 37 different countries around the world, represented with subsidiaries. So as a business, from that little town of Lenskirk and then on to Testo in 1957 to the global business they are now, with turnover over £500 million or €500 million a year. It's really sort of, it's grown quite considerably. And what's really nice about it, and I've been very lucky to...
I mean, just to put that into perspective with people.
Yeah.
€500 million.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, this business here, if I was doing €500 million at the time, I would have been... It's
incredible.
Phenomenal.
And all of that, and this is why I've been lucky in mind, it's a family business. It's still owned by the same family.
Yeah.
So our chairman, who's recently sort of stepped back a little bit, Professor Burkout Knosper, still owns the business.
Yeah.
So it's still his son's in the business, his daughter's in the business. So even if we are this, huge global brand and represented all around the world, it still has a family feel to it.
Yeah.
4,000 employees around the world now. I sit on lots of community teams meetings around the world with my colleagues from China or the colleagues from North America. You still feel connected as part of this, one family brand that Testo is.
I mean, people, I think when they're using the products, they can see how good they are, the quality of the product, but they never. This is why I like getting brands on. You give us a few little nuggets of information like that to sort of put it into a context for people. And I'm sure most people using these products would not realise just how big they'll probably look at it and see an exhibition stand and go, wow, a big brand.
Yeah.
But to put that into the grand scheme of things, it's just phenomenal. Like 4,000 employees worldwide. It's a fantastic achievement for any company.
I mean, it's again with the industry, the part of the industry I'm in, test equipment, validation of the work that engineers are doing. You can imagine the R&D department at Testo is huge. I mean, they have so many people in that one department looking at all different areas of the trades that we're already in, and other trades.
Which are your biggest market?
I mean, in the UK, for instance, our business unit in the UK, our sort of Testo UK, we're heating, ventilation, air conditioning. That's our core business.
Yeah.
Refrigeration, again, a core business for us. But Testo as a brand, we're also huge in thermography, so lots of thermal imaging cameras in our range, and we keep that as a separate business unit because it justifies it. We have an emissions business unit for big stack emissions monitoring for the environment. So when you see these big chimneys sticking out of a big hospital somewhere or a big power plant or something like that, the emissions from them plants and sites have to be monitored. We have an emissions division. We have very big divisions in both food and pharmaceutical. So the food industry, for instance, just as we're driving around the area, we'll see the McDonald's and the KFCs and the Nando's. All of them businesses, generally speaking, will have a Testo product in there, if not multiple Testo products, because they have to check temperature, air quality, the quality of the oil that they're cooking with and things like that. Yeah. That's our food industry. So we have lots of little bits of kit that go in and help them do their job better and more efficiently.
Me as a Mr. Joe Blogs, as a general, would never think that that's where...
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, one of the sort of highlights for me since I joined Testo, I spent my first sort of couple of weeks out at in Germany, learning all about the brand. And just below our factory there, we have Testo World, which is an incredible sort of place to visit, because
Like a
what
museum.
it does, it's basically there's like a mini fast food place, like a McDonald's, for instance, or a logistics factory, a food industry factory. And what it'll do is it'll put our products on view there, because generally, if I walk into a Nando's or a McDonald's, I'm not going to see Testo products, but they're being used.
Yeah.
And what Testo World does is it brings them to life and says, this is where
where
our
you can
products
use
are being
them.
used.
Yeah.
So whether it's in the air conditioning systems, as I say, or the environmental monitoring of them, temperature sensitive areas, then that's where Testo are. Pharmaceutical industry, where we've got clean rooms and temperature controlled environments for the production of pharmaceuticals. Again, Testo have an entire business that's based on that to provide that equipment, that's obviously linked to a cloud-based solutions piece of software that's constantly monitoring and updating someone that needs to know about what that environment is people are working in and operating in as well.
Yeah.
So they're the 5 areas of business: HVAC-R, TI, thermal imaging, emissions, food and pharmaceuticals in the UK.
I mean, does it vary from like European business to the US as to which sort of industries are bigger for, or is it generally that's the main one across all?
Yeah, I mean, generally they're the 5 business units. There will be parts of the world, and I think I'm quite right in saying there are parts of the world that are less developed than some European countries. In the UK, for instance, our sort of gas industry, we're very well legislated. We have lots of standards. We're at an advanced stage. Plumbing and heating engineers in the UK are working probably to one of the highest levels in the world. Certain areas of Europe as well, like Germany and France and the Netherlands, Italy. But when you go outside of Europe, then you've got more less developed countries.
Like South America.
Like South America, like India, like even in the Far East, where our products lend themselves to the emerging industry, where they do have to start monitoring their emissions for the first time. We've been monitoring emissions, for instance, in the UK for 20, 30, 40 years, but where you've got these explosions in industry, like in India, for instance, and they're seeing all of this environmental pollution going up into the atmosphere, somebody obviously has taken a note of this and think, we need to start monitoring it, because this is what's affecting the environment. The toxic gases, the NOx, the SOx, the carbon monoxide, dioxide that we're putting into atmosphere obviously affect the industry, affect the environment. So, it does vary a little bit, although we've got pretty much these core business units. Less evolved countries, should we say, where industry is sort of bursting out in the last 10 years as opposed to 30, 40, 50 years ago. They're using different types of equipment. Yeah. And again, a lot comes back to compliance and standards. Say the UK, Germany, the Netherlands and so on, they have lots of compliance standards that people have to work to. So the products, again, in the UK, for instance, the combustion gas analyzer market is a very mature market. It's not something that arrived 5 years ago or anything. It's been around for the best part of 30, 40 years. People have been using combustion gas analyzers. Yeah. People have been using thermometers. I mean, 1957, I mentioned, was our sort of first year in business. And at that time, the business really started because Testo produced the first electronic clinical thermometer. So that going into that sort of medical world of where you needed to measure temperature on a very, very accurate level, and instead of relying on the sort of instruments that they used prior to 1957, for the first time they got this electronic piece of equipment where they could measure temperature and record temperature. Yeah. So it was a very different business back then, but from that evolution of temperature into pressure, into monitoring equipment like we can see today, that's how the business has grown.
It always fascinates me how, because there's some businesses, and we had, Mercer.
Yes.
So we had Mercer on, and, I see painter decorators using their products, and I see a few plasterers and people doing sanding work and stuff like that. But when they were talking about the automotive side, like paint refinishing and then boats and loads of and you just, because you see a brand in one sector, you don't sort of realise some of the other stuff that they do.
Yeah.
I would never have put it with medical or a McDonald's or something like that.
It's just incredible, yeah. I mean, the breadth of the portfolio I mentioned is huge. And as I came from a business where I was for many, many years, where we were very, very focused on combustion gas analyzers. Yeah. And for gas engineers.
What was that business?
That was a business called Kane. People will know that it's very, very similar, Kane International, very, very similar products to what we're selling today. You know, I'm not adventurous enough to stray out of my lanes. I sell test equipment. That's what I do. Yeah. From Fluke to Kane to Testo. that's my evolution within test equipment. So where Testo have this incredible, say, 5 different business units in the UK, Kane were very focused, obviously, in plumbing and heating. That was their core products, and still is today. And, still a very, very a great company, a family business, and still around today. And obviously,
British business, Kane.
Yes, family owned again. So I've been very lucky to work for family owned businesses. Although this Testo's on a different level, scale, and globally, but it's still a family business. So again, I've been very lucky to work within environments that foster certain core values. Testo's core values are incredibly well followed. I've not met anyone from any of the other CSOs around the world that don't know our core values and stick to our core values. And I think that's really, I think it's nice for me. I mean, even at my age, joining a business like Testo, it's been really refreshing to see this business that's evolved massively over the 70 years they've been in business, but have held true to the core values that the Krosper family fostered 70 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why, a lot of brands, they have a quick rise and they can have a very sort of steep or shallow fall all the way back down. Yeah. But if your ethos is a certain way of marketing a product, developing a product, and that resonates with the customer, I tend to find, because people say, different jurisdictions, America, they want different things to hear. The product, yes.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you've got that, like you say, the core values of the business, it doesn't matter which country you're in, that's what people will look to, and that's where they look at the brand and the brand colours and think, I'll buy that because I know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Just want to say a big thank you to Rhino Trade Insurance, who are now our official insurance partner. And to go hand in hand with that, they have given us a cheeky little discount code across all of their policies. So when you are filling out a form online and trying to get a quote or speaking with a team member, all you have to do is give the code TradeLegends to get an exclusive discount across all of their policies.
I think one of the things working in test equipment, I've never really sold products that were nice to have. They're always need to have. Yeah. It helps you do your job. It helps you either be compliant, be efficient, make your job easier. So they need to have products. And obviously with legislation in the gas market, again, there isn't an engineer in the UK that doesn't need, if they're working on boilers, they need a combustion gas analyzer because they've got to have evidence to say they've done it. They use pressure meters because they need evidence of that particular test, temperature the same. So as a solutions provider, again, going back to our core values, I think what's nice about Testo and the team over in Germany and the team here in the UK is their engagement with engineers. It's absolutely first. It's a paramount sort of driver. We were, thinking about a product. We're in 2026 now, and we're thinking about a product in 2 years' time because we've seen an application, we've seen a need for something, and that's where it comes from.
Instant feedback from an engineer.
I mean, it is.
And this is no disrespect to distributors, because I'm sure you've got thousands of them.
We do, yeah.
But the only issue that I ever found, and this is where I talk to you about the direct-to-consumer thing, was when I was selling to an individual, I would get instant feedback because they come on social media and say, I really like this, but have you ever thought about doing this? And I'd go, no, I haven't. And the level of development, and this is why, obviously, them talking to end users, engineers, is vital, because one of them drops out a little nugget, and all of a sudden the product goes from being like a great seller to being like exceptional.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'd say there's nothing better than engineer. They do the job every day. They use my equipment 10 times a day. Yeah. So if they come back to me and say, it's great, Tom, I like it, but if it did this, and a lot of the time, products will arrive with us in a certain format with certain functionality, but they will evolve. And again, that's just based on customer feedback. Yeah. Most businesses now, I think generally most businesses, particularly with test equipment, they'll sort of do things like a soft launch. So they'll put it out for feedback to a smaller audience first before they do a huge launch, because they need that. I say, when we design a product, as a conceptual designer back in the R&D department, they might think we want it to look a certain shape, we want it to weigh a certain amount, we want the screen to be this visual. But until you give it to an engineer who actually uses it,
it's too big, it's too small. Exactly, I can't see the screen.
Exactly that.
Can't work the buttons with gloves on.
Yeah, exactly that. And really simple things like that, because I've been aware of that over the years. You think, why did we never think of this at day one? But I'd say until you give it to somebody who uses it every day, who gives you that feedback, and say one of the great things about Testo is to say, They listen to engineers. They have great respect for engineers. They put them at the front of the business, whether that's electrical, whether it's gas, whether it's refrigeration, and say, give us your honest feedback, because we can evolve, we can make changes, the next evolution might be different. Without that, I think you stand still, and you stand still particularly with test equipment. You're going backwards.
Fast,
It's so quick.
Anything electronic or with a certain level of creativity inside a product, if you're not continually evolving, you just, as a business, you die.
Yeah.
Just, if somebody else is sitting there thinking, how you bring that out and it's the best on the market, you think, some companies go, I've made it.
Yeah.
But it's the ones that haven't quite got it right that are always chipping away because they want it to be like that. So
and whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, I've questioned that over the last 35 years. I've always sold a product that we have a continuous relationship with the customer, because I can sell, this is a combustion gas analyzer in front of us. If I sell that to a customer, I'm going to have interaction with them every year, because this instrument has to come back to me for calibration, service, sensor replacement. So it's an ongoing relationship. It's not a sell it and forget it product where I can just say, well, it wasn't the best product I've sold, but I'll never see that customer again. I have to have a continuous relationship with our customers, whether it's an independent trade or whether it's a large business team. So there's a trust straight away once you sell a product to somebody.
And I presume you're doing all the updates.
Yeah. We service the product. It comes back to us for calibration, service, analyzers, refrigeration manifolds. They have sensors in them that need to be replaced, based on use and deterioration, whether it's an electrochemical sensor or whether it's an infrared sensor. At some point, that product needs, a bit like your car, it's going to have bits put back into it that are new.
Yeah.
So the trust element when you sell a product with a customer is ongoing. And say it's not a sell it and forget it. We've got to keep that customer happy for the lifetime of his journey with Testo.
Yeah.
And hopefully when they've got to a product where something else evolves at that point, or their business needs change because they want a different application, they'll stick with Testo. That's the key to the whole test journey, really, test instrument journey.
So this is going to sort of stump you maybe a little bit. Which is your favourite product? You've only been there 18 months, and it could be that you like something just because the way it looks or the way it feels or the feedback that you've had from a customer. What would you say is your favourite product and why?
It's difficult because I've been 30 years selling combustion gas analyzers. That's my background. That's where I come from.
So one of these.
So that's what I'm really. But having said that, because I've opened my eyes up to this different industries like refrigeration, for instance. So last year we launched a new 558S refrigeration manifold, which has got this colour touch screen, very intuitive, very simple to operate refrigeration manifold for the engineers. I think for me personally at the moment, because it's new to me and because I'm learning all about refrigeration and the needs of a refrigeration engineer.
They don't normally have a screen on, do they?
Well, they can be just normal gauge. Traditionally, we've come from a sort of gauge environment where they have a vacuum gauge and a pressure gauge, and they're still available. They can still buy that type of product. But refrigeration manifolds again have evolved into this, fully digital screen where you can see your subcool and your superheat and your pressure readings and your highs and your lows, and you can take all your information and put it into a report. I think that 558S, because it's so intuitive, even if you've never used a digital manifold before, you've come from traditional gauge sets into a digital manifold for the first time. Again, because people are used to using mobile phones, it's just very, very intuitive. The ups, the downs, the swipes, and things like that.
I just feel like anything where you can see not just one part of the information, you can see a whole host of information on the screen.
Yeah.
If it's saving you, and whenever I was developing a product here, I'd look and think, how much time am I going to save somebody by using this?
Yeah.
Even if it could be that the light's hanging up like that, but you can turn it around, it's facing a different way, and all you got to do is that.
Yeah.
Over the course of a year, somebody not having to take it down, turn it round, put it back up.
Yeah.
All that stuff. If somebody just uses it and forgets about it, but it just seamlessly integrates into their daily work. And
I think with equipment in particular, because you've always got to create almost like a business need to buy the product. You've got to say, this product will save you time. This product fits your application. This product makes your life easier. So once you've met them sort of tick boxes, that's where you're on the right route to design the product that'll actually, obviously sell well. We want it to sell well, of course, but actually make the customer's life, as I say, better. It's a better experience for them. I think one of the things that, again, just going back to different products and favourite products, what I like about the Testo products, whether it's the refrigeration manifolds or the gas analyzers, although that's one product in your hand, it can link to smart probes. We have an incredible range of smart probes. So you can buy a product, say £500, that can grow with your business by the addition of smart probes that link to your product or to your app. So if I'm a refrigeration engineer and I think, well, I need a vacuum gauge as well, I can link that to it. It becomes a family of products through the range of smart probes.
Whereas before, you probably used to have to buy.
You have to buy different pieces of equipment. You have to instead of buying 5 different pieces of equipment, we can buy one hub piece of equipment. Your analyzer or your manifold might be your hub, and your smart probes become your accessories.
I mean, this is whenever I was doing sales, this is the stuff where somebody go, well, why am I buying one of these? And you're like, well, you buy that, it might be more expensive over the course of, if you need to upgrade or you need to adapt to what you're using, it's going to save you £300-400 down the line. They go, oh, but I don't need that right now. And you think, the short-sightedness sometimes of trying to explain it to people. But stuff like just even putting a screen on something that's never had it before, I think is like, most people it's just a screen. Like they're used to seeing their Apple Watch or whatever it is, their iPad, but they don't realise just how neat that makes everything and quick and easy. You can take one glance and go, right, done, and leave something rather than having to consistently monitor it or go back and check that everything's right.
Yeah, and I think, again, I've met thousands and thousands of engineers over the years. I've worked in this trade, and prior to that, we're all different. We're different types of learners. And some people are very visual. So having a nice big colour screen, even if it's something that as simple as red and green. So red is bad and green is good. That helps the customer. We're very sort of.
And when you're busy, you can miss something as well. And when it's with this stuff, you don't want to be missing anything.
That's why we put alarms in things. We will get to safety points within a process, whatever that process is. Well, we'll put an alarm in there. This has an alarm in it. These have alarms.
I think that's great. I thought it was like some sort of voice recorder or something.
No, it's just literally, it's just like, with carbon monoxide, I can't taste it, I can't smell it. I could be overcome by it. Now, I'm not a gas engineer, I don't work, but what I try and do is make sure people are aware of it. So I wear it all the time when I'm walking into places. But my son is a gas engineer. He's sort of 5 years into his journey as a gas engineer. And as a father, I think, I want him to be protected, because sometimes he's working on his own. He's not necessarily with another operative. He's working in a dangerous environment. So, I want him to have the best safety equipment he can have, really, to help him do his job, but to keep him safe as well.
That's one of those things where most people would just go, what is it? And think, but actually they don't realise just how important one of those things is.
This is a sort of breakdown version of if you work on a big, I used to go up to Sellafield many years ago, and you'd go up onto one of these big sites, and you'll see something like this, slightly bigger, but it'd be multi-gases, because it's looking at all different gases within that environment. This is very focused on carbon monoxide, because I work in the plumbing trade or with gas engineers, but it just protects you. It's just protection, that's all it is. But I say, as a father of a gas engineer, I want him to have the best equipment. I want him to use the most up-to-date equipment.
I mean, are these popular, or are they?
I'm getting more so. I mean, again, this type of product's been around for about I'd say about 5 or 10 years now. Actually, now this personal CO, it's what we call personal CO alarm, personal monitors.
Because I've never seen.
But it's just very simple. It's fairly lightweight. You can see I'm wearing it on a lanyard. It's not costing me anything to put on. I mean, they're sort of like 2-year sensor in there, and after 2 years, I'll buy another one, because I wouldn't send this away, because it's about £100. So it's not worth me sending it away every year for calibration, because after 2 years, I'll just replace it. But if you break that down to pence per day, it's
negligible.
It's keeping you safe when you're doing your job.
It is funny though, because if you said £100 to someone like that, but like you say, in the sales world, you have to go, well, do you know how much that is per day for the length of? Because it's 365 days in a year. You've got 2 years worth. There you go. Break it down into that.
Honestly, if I could speak to every parent of every gas engineer, they'd all buy one, because as a father, I think, for £100, I'll keep them safe for 2 years. Fine. It's almost not a nice to have now. It's a need to have. I say you need to protect yourself when you're working in dangerous environments. And with electricians, they use the best equipment they can have. They've got safety equipment that they can have. They wear the right tool. They have the right tools for the job. It just helps protect them when they're doing their daily job.
Good little gadget. That.
Yeah, no, we're very pleased with that. But we do put alarms into other products as well. Again, just to make people aware that whether it's from an efficiency point of view, it's gone wrong because we're making this product less efficient by what we're doing to it, or more alarmingly, we're making it unsafe by what we're doing to it. We put alarms into the products that help the engineers do their job. Different levels of engineers. I mean, I say my son's only 5 years into his journey, so from his experience point of view, he hasn't got a world of experience with different products. But if I can give him a kit that points him in the right direction and say this is right, this is wrong, then that's the right thing to do. And over the next 10 years, he'll gain his knowledge, he'll gain his experience, and so on. So, it might not be as reliant on the test equipment for alarms, but at the moment, he needs it. He needs that guidance that test equipment will give him.
Yeah. I mean, as a company then with Testo, where does the company want to go, and where does it see the industry going? Because when you've got like legislation, and that can change all the time. I know you're sort of semi-constrained and governed by that, but where, as a business, is there any marketplaces where you think we could do something in there, or is there any sort of new innovations that you're thinking, well, actually, I feel like these need to move more to this way, or have you seen any trends within, users or anything like that where they're starting to...
Yeah, I mean, the clever people in Germany are mapping this out for the next 10, 20 years with the business, but one of the things that's becoming more apparent now is the need for almost permanent fixed solutions. And with permanent fixed solutions where you're constantly monitoring data, lots of data over days, weeks, months, and so, then what you need is a cloud-based solution to store all that data. So in our solutions business, that's where there's a huge boom in that business, because for whether it's factories, whether it's hospitals, whether it's schools, where you're monitoring data on a long-term basis, you need to be able to store that data, analyze the data, and store the data safely. So from the solution side, I think a lot of it will revolve around the development of our cloud-based network and storage, and AI as well. I mean, AI is something that...
even to analyse the information with AI.
I think any business that isn't using AI today in 2026, I mean, because we all talk about what this might become AI, but businesses are already using it. Testo are already using a lot of AI within our industry, within our own business, whether it's in Germany or the UK, to help us, like you say, whether it's be analytics for our business, or whether it's to be guidance for our business, because why wouldn't you use something like AI? Why wouldn't you embrace it? It's you might not use it as the guiding light for everything, but you would use AI. And I think the next evolution of this type of test equipment, handheld test equipment, will be AI. I think it will very much be that.
If you're consistently monitoring stuff, you can predict if something's going to go wrong, or you could potentially just like have efficiencies somewhere with something, or you could say, well, maintenance login stuff for brands, and saying, look, actually, if you need parts or servicing, then we can arrange this automatically. So somebody just comes in and says, oh, this is ready for a service, automatically calls an engineer. You don't even have to make the phone call.
Oh, yeah. I mean, again, just to go back on the maintenance side of things, if I have a piece of AI, a piece of software, because as an engineer, I might work on Worcester Bosch most of the week. I might work on Ideal boilers most of the week. I might, but there are dozens and dozens of brands out there, and I can't all hold that information in my head as to what their parameters are, their window of operation is, we should set this boiler up at. So yes, there are lots of apps that give you that now, but really the evolution of that type of data really goes towards AI as well, because AI can then might give me suggestions on what the fault code might be, or the fault diagnosis might be, and it'll help me do my job. I think any business that isn't using AI today is falling behind. You should be using AI. We should be embracing that technology and using it where we can to give us a better result for the job.
I watched I was on a plane, I can't remember where I was going, and it was about AI use in farming. And it absolutely blew my mind. The stuff that's going on just to make a lettuce, something like that. I was like, because it gets to your supermarket, you pick it up, you take it home, you wash it, you eat it, and then you don't even realise what has gone into, getting it to your plate, basically.
AI
is phenomenal.
I'm very lucky to meet lots of different engineers, and one of my colleagues, when she watches this back, she'll remember this. I bored her with this story. I met an engineer up in Scotland recently, and in the production of eggs, And he spent 20 minutes with me explaining how they produce eggs, mass produce eggs, how they produce them on the same day every week.
Yeah.
Eggs are only laid on a Wednesday. And he explained this to me, and I'm thinking, I'm so lucky to be able to receive that information, because we work with such a wide variety of trades now.
This is one thing about working in sales, which anybody listening and watching, I absolutely used to love. I've been to Asda depots and abseiled in with a head torch on over all the Easter eggs. I've been to Mercedes Formula One. I've been to some phenomenal places, and people about eggs. But when you go and see the level of it, you think it's just mind blowing, isn't it?
It's just incredible, because we don't know,
and it's great to see the products being used in those environments, because you think even I wouldn't have thought to use that there, or and you can suggest it then to another customer.
Yeah, as I say, I'm very lucky to go into some amazing sites and meet with some amazing people.
How many eggs did they produce in a week?
Oh,
because I actually met a chicken farmer, and he was producing 1 million eggs a week.
This was on a mass production scale, and I'm saying about when they produce them, how they produce them, how controlled it is, how very, very controlled it is. And I don't want to get into the argument of free range and battery control, but how controlled that industry is. And for that industry, and the reason we were there, and the reason we were talking to this guy, is everything is temperature controlled and monitored. So he needs to analyze that data, because they hatch an egg to the second of the minute, not to the hour or the day. They hatch an egg on the second they need to. And a lot of that is done by temperature controlled environments. So that's where Testo fits into that world. And then the next call after that might be a plumbing and heating engineer. So it's incredibly varied. I'm incredibly lucky to work with the company I work with now, and the trades that I go into, incredible, like you said, mentioned the car industry, and going into Mercedes or McLaren at Woking or somewhere like that. And then the following day I'll go to Cadbury Schweppes, and that'll be my favourite journey of eggs, I think. I'm going to the Cadbury factory,
chocolate on the way out.
Exactly. So you have, I always just say this to the sales team I used to run, you'll have days where you'll think, it's quite mundane. We work in a very small industry. There's 120 or 30,000 registered gas engineers. So generally speaking, we work in quite a small industry, but
niche.
You really, really, once you spread that out and you start talking about other products outside of the gas industry, that's where you get really interesting days where you think, I've learned something new today. And even at my age, learning something new I take as a real sort of bonus. I really enjoy it.
So what else would I like to ask you? I'm trying to think now. What else should I ask you?
Well, we started talking about sort of standards within the industry. And I say I've seen lots of changes in standards. I've seen standards help drive, certainly the sale of our products. I wouldn't lie about that, because if a new standard comes out, an application engineers have to buy the product. But generally speaking, they don't produce a standard unless there's a safety message behind it. Yeah. And unfortunately, the trade, again, little downside to the trade I work in, a lot of the time, standards will come out of tragedy.
And somebody losing a life.
Yeah, and whether it's an explosion within gas, or whether it's carbon monoxide poisoning. One of the things I've seen recently, and this is really since I've come to Testo, is we've been involved in the development of safety kits around Awaab's law for damp and mould. Again, it wasn't an area I was very familiar with about the dangers of bacteria from mould.
There was that child that died.
Yeah, Awaab's law, Awaab Ishak back in 2020, and on the back of that really, really personal tragedy in an area I'm from the northwest of England, has evolved this entire piece of legislation that's gone through at really, really quick speed, because generally when you sort of bring a bill to or a standard to the industry, it'll take, 5 or 10 years to get that standard out.
Nothing's ever quick, yeah.
No, so Awaab's law, I think Awaab's law came about because of a real, say, personal tragedy, but what's on the back of that?
Something good's come out of it.
Really strong message about if as engineers or as tradesmen, we see the presence of mould within a property, we now know the dangers have been highlighted. That bacteria from that mould can cause really, really serious health conditions. And unfortunately, in Awaab Ishak's case, obviously his untimely death at the age he was, it was just incredibly sad. But hopefully, because the law was named after Awaab, he'll be remembered for something positive. Because whether you work in social housing now and on from that, we have set guidance now where we see mould, we see the evidence of damp and mould. And what we've done at Testo is we've produced different kits that will allow you to analyse and make a decision on how quickly that repair and that maintenance needs to be done, and whether that's a thermal image of the wall, so we can look at the temperature and the relative humidity of the wall and the potential areas of risk for moisture, or moisture meters that you might have seen perhaps a plasterer use in the past, where to check in the moisture content within the surface they're measuring. That again will give you the engineered evidence to say, actually, we've got a real problem here. We've got the presence of mould, which we now know. We've always known it, but it's been highlighted by Awaab's death that this is a very, very dangerous substance, and it can't be just ignored. It can't be just painted over. It can't be just washed off and then hope it doesn't come back. It has to be remedied. It has to be treated. So Awaab's law came into place in October 2025. Social housing companies all around the country are very, very aware of it. They've set up teams to deal with it, to instantly respond to the presence of something like damp and mould. And I say that just goes back to say, occasionally, whether it's carbon monoxide poisoning or a gas explosion, sometimes tragedy is what drives safety. And a lot of the times, tragedy is what drives safety. And I work in that industry, and I've seen lots of evidence of that over the past 35 years. Electrical as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's good, though, that companies like Testo are they're up on that, if that makes any sense. They're not like, legislation comes out and some companies go, I don't want to change, or it's going to cost me a fortune to change that, or we can't do it with this, so we just leave it and other people develop stuff for it. But it's good that you've got a company behind you with the products they have, where they're we're not going to shy away from that. Again,
it just goes back to listening to engineers. The engineers will tell us we need to be able to monitor this now. Legionella testing for water. We need to be able to test it. It's a dangerous thing. Legionella, the bacterial mist of Legionella is very, very dangerous.
They have that at my gym.
Well,
in the jacuzzi.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, stagnant water, it needs to be, above 60 degrees for hot water when you store it, below 20 degrees for cold water. And people forget that, because you think, well, you always think about the hot side of it. Cold water needs to be stored at a certain temperature as well. So having Legionella test kits and having repeated periodic maintenance of that water will mean that nobody's in danger.
Yeah.
And again, Legionella around the world is really still very, very, unfortunately, there's still many, many incidents of Legionella poisoning every single day across the world, because unfortunately water isn't stored correctly, whether it be cold or hot. And that is it's an awful thing to get as well. You get a very terrible illness.
The whole thing shut down.
Yeah.
The whole thing shut down. I had one of my friends message me and say, well, you should have had a shower, shouldn't you? That's what I was like. Typical giving me some.
But again, as a consumer, as a member of the gym, just a user of the gym, you wouldn't be aware of that. But that maintenance needs to be done. That recorded evidence of that.
You always see somebody come in and taking a sample of the water,
but again, it's the storage of the water with Legionella, and that's the thing. And there will be businesses doing it, particularly in gyms. There will be businesses doing it, absolutely, and that's all going on behind the scenes. And as long as they're using test equipment that gives them the evidence on that day, at that time, I tested it, these were my test results, here's my documented evidence, that protects the engineer. Of course it does, he's done his job, but it protects the user of that shower or that hot water system then, because they've done the proper job, they've done the proper requirements.
So are you selling those products to the likes of the gyms, or are you?
We tell them to the engineers, the maintenance people. I say the food industry is slightly different. We are selling them to the people that actually work in the McDonald's or the KFCs and so on. But for it's the maintenance people that are doing that type of that type of periodic or repetitive testing.
Yeah. Okay. But one thing that we tend to do around about this time is we get guests to either drop some knowledge, or you could talk about something that you guys have planned soon, any exhibitions that you're doing, because normally I get people to give, it's almost like some life advice to anybody listening and watching. But what we could do is, if you've got exhibitions coming up, or you want to talk about, we've got a launch for a new podcast, can't tell you exactly what it is, but it comes out here.
Honestly, Alex, I wish I could tell you about new products, but they would shoot me. Because a lot of the time you're waiting.
There's the binoculars from Germany watching.
You're waiting for a particular time to launch a product. But exhibitions. Testo as a brand, we're represented at lots of
you're
trade
installer
counters.
Again this year, I
We
presume?
will be at installer. For anyone that's visited installer in the last few years, I think it's one of the most popular things at install. You'll see our Testo totes, people walking around with that orange box. I think it gets on everybody else's nerves at the show, but for us, it's just
great marketing.
It's great marketing. So we'll be back at installer in June. We do lots of regional shows as well because we focus on different industries. So we do lots of refrigeration shows. We'll be over in Ireland at the end of March at the Plumex show in Limerick, in beautiful Limerick, sort of demonstrating and showcasing the products.
Is there
there.
any shows for anybody who goes to? Because I know a lot of people like to go to the hardware show in Cologne, or they go different shows in Germany. Is there anything abroad for anybody that? Because occasionally we get the odd.
Yeah, I mean the biggest one the biggest one in Europe I've been to is ISH every 2 years in Frankfurt, and we used to go to that with a previous company, and we go to it with Testo. Testo obviously are almost like a street name in Germany, a very well known brand in Germany. But ISH in Germany, if everyone gets the chance to visit Ish, then I would absolutely say yes, because
good for plumbers as well.
Yeah, huge, because a lot of the time you'll see the products, particularly products that are being launched for the very first time, will be launched at Ish every 2 years in Frankfurt. Yeah. It's the biggest in Europe. I mean, we go to Installer every year. I'm sure you've visited Installer over the last few years. It seems to get bigger.
I always think, and I try and explain this to people, is until you've been to an exhibition in Germany or China, you haven't really been to an exhibition.
That's exactly true. It
really
is
you go
true,
around on golf buggies to the different halls and stuff like that. It's just...
We think we're big with the NEC with 3 or 4 halls, and then you go to Ish and it's
like one hall.
I think it's like 14 different locations over the the Messerwasser in Frankfurt. Yeah. 40, you can get a bus between the halls.
I used to go to a lighting fair in Frankfurt, and it's just
same venue. It's exactly the same venue. I was very lucky enough to go to the Canton Fair in China. And it was like almost like going to a football match.
You need 2 pairs of shoes.
There was literally 10,000 people queuing up at every entrance to go in, because the buyers from all over the world come to something like the Canton Fair. And it was like going to Old Trafford on a match day. That's where these people come from.
People, I don't think people realise until they've been to some of these. I mean, the Canton Fair is it's chaotic.
It's madness.
It's absolutely chaotic. I mean, it's an experience, but it is, at least in Germany, it's a bit more...
And again, just the advice thing you mentioned, because I've got a young son who's sort of new into the trade, and I would always say to him, because I used to drag him, I used to force him along to Fex at Old Trafford or something like that with me, or because he never wanted to go. But
does he like to go now?
He does. He's getting into it now. He's more mature. I mean, when he was sort of 16, 17, he wasn't quite. He was doing his plumbing at college at the time, and say, "Well, come along, and we'll show you."
You've got more cool things to do on a weekend. Though,
yeah, exactly that. But what I'll say to him is, look, you will go and you will learn something. You'll go and you'll have access to the manufacturers there on the day. You'll have
ask
access
all your
to
questions.
Potential future training courses, and you can pin them down on the day, the manufacturer's representative. So I would always, young people, because I say it's lovely to go to Install and catch up with old friends, and see the same people and chat with them, because you might not have seen them from the last installer. It's really nice when you see young people walking around. Even the guys from the college, and because you think, they're just going to take all the stuff off our stand and walk away and never buy anything, because they're not at that point in their journey yet where they're buying products.
All the pens have gone.
Yeah, exactly. But because they're not buying kit for themselves at that point. But I like to see the young people at the shows, because I say that it shows an interest. They're showing an interest. Yeah. If they engage with the manufacturers at a show like that, they will pick things up. They will learn something. They'll grow their network.
A lot of brands dismiss the college kids that come round because they think just after the sweets, or they're just after the pens. But a lot of people don't realise that's going to be your future customer. So even if you chat to them for an hour and you think, God, these kids aren't listening, somewhere one of them or two of them, it's sunk in, and that's your...
I mean, we do a lot of college visits throughout the year. We spend a lot of time speaking to students, whether in private training centres, whether in colleges around the country, giving them that education of the process.
If that's the first product they buy, they tend to...
It's a very selfish thing for us to say, because I would say that. I would say, look, if I've... I always remember my first car was a Mini, because I learnt in a Mini, and I felt comfortable driving a Mini. Yeah. And so when I passed my driving test, I bought a Mini. Yeah. And again, if I've used a Testo combustion gas analyzer as part of my training, chances are I'll buy a Testo combustion
unless it
gas
goes
analyzer.
wrong, you've got no reason to change.
Absolutely. So we spend a lot of time producing content, video content, how-to videos and things like that. Again, when Sam was at college and doing his gas later on, I would say to him, look, use this resource, because it wasn't available to engineers 10 years ago. Use the resources on YouTube. Go and do the how-to videos, because if you're not a very sort of academic type of learner, where you've read it out of the textbook, you've remembered it, and you've then followed through on it, If, like my son, you're more of a visual learner, a hands-on learner, go and watch a video.
90% of trades are the same.
Yeah.
90% of the trades. The one thing I want to just say to anybody listening and watching, I feel, I'm not going to take anything away from trades, but I feel like it's easier now to learn and do the job right because you've got tools like this, you've got your CRM managers, you've got, like, YouTube is so extensive with trying to find out how to do, like, if, you know, it's the same with me. If I'm doing something at home and I think, oh, I don't know what I'm doing here, I just go on. Yeah. And I've got a video demonstration of somebody doing it, or I can't find out how to do something on the computer, and you just type it into AI and it gives you a list of
the tools. There's no excuse for failure now. I mean, I could hide when I was at school.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I remember at school you had to really go and do your research. You had to sort of go and seek out information and hopefully rely on somebody that's got the knowledge to pass it on. Now the information's there, it's available to you. You've just got to make yourself accessible to it. You've got to embrace it, make yourself accessible to it. So again, the students that come to installer, or the unfortunately, FEX is not there now, but the installer shows or the IRAC shows.
Is FEX stopped now, is it?
It's disappeared from our calendar now. And again, I was probably...
Because they used to be at Stamford Bridge.
Stamford Bridge and Old Trafford were the two. I probably did 28 years in a row or something like that. I'd do both shows and things like that. And they were great because they were much more local on a regional basis, and you got to see engineers from the south or the north and so on, and see friends. I think everyone's sort of graduating towards installer now.
That was a bit like us with Elex shows.
Yeah,
we used to do Harrogate, Sandown, and then Coventry. So we'd have North, like Midlands, and then the South. And it was always good seeing the same people come back. And
funny enough, they still do the tool fairs now. So Elex has evolved into tool fairs. You can still go and do that type of thing. I was up in...
And I liked Harrogate.
I did Harrogate last year, actually.
It's a nice part of the world.
It's a beautiful part of the world, yeah.
Some good bars.
Excuse me, but that's I would say go to shows, make yourself grow your network, make yourself known to people, and it will help because when you need a favor, then you can sort of and I think one of the things that I would always remember about the industry I've worked in all my life is that mostly, and I can say this generally, most engineers are open to sharing knowledge. They will help people.
There's a good community now.
There really is. Yeah, I know some really, really good guys.
Especially with like the plumbers social that they have at installer and stuff. I seem to think that the plumbers, and this is no disrespect to electricians, the plumbers seem to get on better with each other than some of the other trades as well.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, they say they do like to share the knowledge as well. And as I say, I've been a member since about sort of 2014, 15 of a lot of the online forums, the gas chats, the gas engineering and heating, off-tech chat.
I'm going to get a load of baying electricians in the comments.
Well, you do get that because, again, I like to see what they're talking about because, again, sometimes they'll put on something and it might be test equipment related. And I used to be very involved
But it's good
with
in case there's any issues. You can pick them up straight away.
Yeah, and whether it's positive or negative, because we need to know. If there's a problem, if someone's having a problem with a Testo piece of kit, it's good that I know straight away. So I'm, social life's gone at my age, so I spend a lot of time online forums, checking information, making sure that everyone's happy. And if they're not happy, I'll send them a message and say, "Look, can I help?"
Get it sorted.
Nobody wants negativity for the brand, but unfortunately, I mean, like any piece of test equipment or anything you use in life, eventually it might break or it might do something wrong, and it's how you fix it and how you fix it quickly for engineers that makes the future sale easier.
People will only ever remember the bad stuff.
Yeah,
they won't remember that it's worked flawlessly for 10 years. They'll just remember it took them 2 months to sort the problem out.
Oh, I'm the world's worst for that. My boiler will sit there and work for 6-7 years in a row and not miss a beat. And then when it goes wrong, I think, and I'm blaming the brand then straight away. I think I forgot the last 6 years. It's
you
not
haven't had it serviced or maintained.
Just leave it,
So
but I mean, I think the industry generally is very, very friendly and very cooperative. And refrigeration as well. So I'm getting into refrigeration now. So I've joined a lot of the online forums there. And again, it's a very knowledgeable, educated
I think that's going to
community.
be a real big marketplace
absolutely,
going forward, especially like ground source heat pumps and these cassettes and stuff that you go and build.
The availability of much smaller air conditioning systems. I mean, a lot of the new build products now or properties, particularly in the south of England when they get better weather than me in the north, air conditioning. Yeah, why wouldn't you have air conditioning in your house? I mean, it's fantastic. We use it every day at work, and then we go home and switch a boiler on at home. Well, if you've got something like this that can heat and cool, why wouldn't you use that? It seems much more efficient to me. So that, I mean, that refrigeration industry, we're going towards again, different parts of the world interested in our North American colleagues, because 2/3 of their country is all about cooling, not warming. Obviously, refrigeration is a much, much bigger market for that industry, or for that part of the world.
Very big.
Yeah,
Well,
huge.
What time? Well, I can't even tell what time we're on anyway, but I just want to say a big thank you for coming on, Tom. I'm going to
I appreciate it.
Going to leave it there. Appreciate you. Where have you driven from today?
I'm north of Manchester, so back home up the M6 this evening. So hopefully the weather's not too bad.
On a Friday, sorry.
Yeah,
Tom.
I don't mind. I don't mind.
So I just want to say a big thank you for coming on, and anybody listening and watching, do us a big favour, go and like, subscribe, leave us a comment. If you've got any questions for Tom, drop them in the comments below, or if you see one of the reels or anything like that and you've got any further questions, Tom can help. And I think it's Isabel, isn't it, on social? Is it Isabel?
Yeah. Isabel Terry, she's with me on the event side.
On social media, and she's been really good replying and stuff like that. So any questions, I'm sure she will help you out as well. So
yeah, perfect.
Thank you very much,
Alex.
Tom.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Alex.
that.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Enjoyed it.